Thank you. Mr. President, I rise today to say thank you. I rise today to say thank you to President Biden and to Secretary of State Blinken. They have both announced today, though it's been rumored for several days, that the United States of America is about to make available 500 million doses of the coronavirus vaccine to our friends and neighbors across the world. And I hope the President and the Secretary are willing to offer even more if necessary. We've learned a lot about the virus and the disease that it causes. I'll mention three things. Number one, we've learned that the virus came from China. Number two, we have learned that the best vaccines for the virus came from the United States of America. And number three, we have learned, Madam President, that the pandemic is not over. Yes, things are better in the United States, and we're so blessed in that regard, and I'm so thankful. That's a combination of Americans receiving the vaccine. It's a combination of Americans being careful in their behavior. Our low coronavirus rates are a combination of people who have contracted the disease and therefore have the antibodies. And that's why our numbers are going down, and we're also thankful for that. But that's not the situation in other parts of the world. If you go to South America, if you go to Central America, if you ask India, if you ask Sub-Saharan Africa about how things are going in terms of the pandemic, it is alive and well and raging. And our friends and neighbors need the help. And I am grateful today that President Biden and Secretary of State Blinken is going to make that help available for a couple of reasons. It makes sense to show the world what U.S. leadership really means. Number one, it's the right thing to do. It's the moral thing to do. We developed a vaccine. We need to share it. That doesn't mean that we have to require the pharmaceutical companies to share their patented and protected information. I think that's a real mistake. We can accomplish everything through licensing agreements, but we do need to share it. Number two, this makes sense in terms of our national security. It's not the most important reason to do this, but in terms of national security and the rest of our neighbors throughout the world understanding that the American people are generous and that we help other folks when they are down. Number three, it makes sense for the President and the Secretary to do this in terms of geopolitical terms. China is trying to do the same thing that we're going to do in terms of making vaccine available throughout the world, and I thank China for that. And I thank the Chinese people. The Chinese people are wonderful people. Their leadership, not so much. The Chinese people, I'm going to say it again, the people of China are wonderful. The leadership in the Communist Party of China is a bunch of pirates. But I am thankful they're willing to make vaccines available. The problem is they're making their own vaccine available, which is inferior to the American vaccine. And number two, in many cases, their vaccine diplomacy, their meaning, of course, the Chinese Communist Party's vaccine diplomacy, is tied to conditions. Yes, say the Chinese Communist Party, we'll share our vaccine with you if you'll help us take over Taiwan. Yes, we will share our vaccine with you, say members of the Communist Party of China, if you will join with us in saying that the Communist Party of China is doing nothing wrong in hiding the origin of the coronavirus. That's not what we're doing. Our gift as Americans to the rest of the world is unconditional. It is firm. It's categorical. It is the moral thing to do. It is the smart thing to do in terms of our own national security. We can't completely recover until the world recovers. And number three, it makes perfect sense, in my judgment, in explaining to the rest of the world the difference between communism and the free enterprise system, and the hearts that lie behind both of those systems. It's also, and I'll close on this point, Madam President, it's necessary. There are very few countries in the world, we are blessed to be one of them, that have the ability to manufacture, to store, and to distribute the vaccine. And yes, it's wonderful to talk about, well, we're going to help other countries with their, let's say, their manufacturing needs. We should do that, but we don't have enough time. We just don't have enough time, because in the developing world, they just, when time is of the essence, they just don't have the ability that we have to manufacture a vaccine, which is only part of it, to store that vaccine. Many of the vaccines require very careful protocol in terms of storage. And number three, to distribute it. We can do all three. And President Biden, over the last several days, along with Secretary of State Blinken, have said, we're about to show the world what American leadership looks like. We're going to share our innovation and our vaccines with our world's neighbors. And there are no strings attached. And we're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And I think all members of this Congress should join with the President and should join with the Secretary of State in this effort. If they need the resources, I think we should provide them. And let's all get back on our feet together as a world. Thank you, Madam President. I suggest the absence of a quorum.
Clerk will call the roll. Ms. Baldwin.